The story of Squeaky and the Sunken Stone. Once upon a time, nestled in a vast and vibrant forest known as Whispering Woods, lived a squirrel named Squeaky. Squeaky wasn't like the other squirrels. While his cousins and friends chittered and scurried with adventurous glee, Squeaky preferred the quiet safety of his home, a cozy, hollowed-out knot in the ancient oak tree. His home was perfect, filled with the sweetest acorns and the fluffiest moss. Squeaky was a master of his craft, a champion acorn collector, but only within the small, familiar patch of forest around his tree. The thought of venturing beyond the babbling brook or climbing the treacherous tall maple hill made his little squirrel heart thump, thump, thump against his ribs like a drum. Every year, the Whispering Woods animals looked forward to the great winter festival. This wasn't just any festival. It was a magical celebration where all the animals shared their winter stores and told stories of the season. The centerpiece of the festival was the enchanted glow-nut tree, a magnificent hazel tree whose nuts would sparkle and glow a brilliant, warm light after the first big snow. The glowing nuts were used to light the festival path, and a single, perfectly glowing nut was placed at the very top of the highest tree to light the entire woods through the long winter nights. But this year, something was terribly wrong. A soft whisper traveled through the forest, carried by the morning breeze. The glow-nut tree was not glowing. Its nuts were dull and gray, just like any other nut. Old Willow, the wisest tree in the woods, sighed a long, creaking sigh. He explained that the magic of the glow-nut tree came from a single, special object, the Sunken Stone of Sparkle, which was lost long ago in the forgotten marsh of mists. Old Willow said that only the bravest animal, one with a true heart, could retrieve the stone and bring the glow back to the festival. Every animal in the woods was worried. The festival felt impossible without its glowing nuts. Brave Bear offered to go, but Old Willow shook his head. The path to the marsh is one of cleverness, not strength, he boomed. Quick-footed Rabbit offered, but Old Willow said, the marsh is a place of patience, not speed. Squeaky listened from the safety of a low branch. He felt a tiny pang of sadness for his friends. They were all so brave and willing to help, but no one seemed to be the right fit. His heart ached for a moment, and he imagined what it would be like to see the woods lit up again. He knew he wasn't the bravest, but he had a true heart full of love for his home and his friends. Suddenly, a strange feeling filled him, a feeling stronger than his fear. He felt a whisper of courage, a small flicker in his chest. With a shaky breath, Squeaky chittered as loud as he could. I'll go. He squeaked. All the animals turned to look at him. A small, timid squirrel who had never ventured far from his tree. They were shocked. Quick-footed Rabbit hopped over. You, Squeaky, you're afraid of your own shadow. He joked, but without any real unkindness. Squeaky's cheeks flushed, but the flicker of courage was still there. I love our festival, he said softly. I want to help. I have a true heart. Old Willow's leaves rustled with a gentle, approving sound. Squeaky is right, he said. The smallest light can shine the brightest in the darkest places. And so, Squeaky began his adventure. He packed a small, woven pouch with his favorite moss for a soft bed and a few extra acorns for the journey. He took a deep, fortifying breath and scurried away from the familiar comfort of the oak tree, past the babbling brook, and toward the great unknown. The first challenge was crossing the great mossy log. This wasn't just any log. It was an enormous tree trunk that had fallen over the twisting river, which was too wide and fast to cross by swimming. The log was slippery and covered in a thick layer of green moss. Squeaky's knees trembled. He was so used to solid ground. But as he looked across the river to the other side, he saw his friend, Robin, chirping a little encouragement song for him. Taking another deep breath, Squeaky put one paw forward, then another. The moss was indeed slippery, and his little feet slid a bit. He held his breath, but with each tiny step, he felt more confident. The wind rustled through his fur, but he kept his eyes on the other side. Step, step, slide, step. Finally, he reached the far bank, his heart thumping with excitement instead of fear. He had done it. While Squeaky is on his journey, why not take a quick moment to hit the like button? It helps our stories reach more animal lovers like you. Barnaby stopped and looked up. Pa, everyone wants the stone. It's not worth it. It's just a rock, he grumbled. Now scram, I'm trying to find my supper. Squeaky's heart sank. He was so close. But then he noticed that the badger's paws were full of mud, and he was struggling to dig. Mr. Barnaby, Squeaky said, his voice a little stronger now. Maybe I can help. I'm good at finding things. Barnaby squinted at him, surprised. Squeaky scurried over to a dry patch of earth and used his little paws to quickly dig a small, deep hole. He dug out a few plump, juicy grubs and showed them to the badger. Barnaby's eyes lit up. He had been digging in the wrong spot. Grinning, Barnaby took the grubs. Well, what do you know, he said. You're a clever little thing. The path to the stone is straight ahead. But you must answer a riddle from the stone guardian too. Get it? Now, go on, little one. You've been a big help. It was easy to get turned around. Squeaky was about to give up when he noticed a long, thin spider silk stretching from one briar to the next. The silk glittered in the sun. He followed the nearly invisible trail, scurrying carefully between the thorns. Each time he thought he was lost, he'd spot a small, glinting thread leading the way. Thank you, Silky, he whispered. He could smell the damp, earthy air of the marsh of mists. But before the marsh, a grumpy old badger named Barnaby was digging at the base of a small hill. Barnaby was known for his bad temper, and Squeaky was very scared of him. But the path to the marsh went right by him. Squeaky squeaked a tiny, timid hello. Barnaby grunted and kept digging. Excuse me, Mr. Barnaby, but do you know the way to the Sunken Stone? Squeaky asked. With Barnaby's advice and a renewed sense of purpose, Squeaky scampered into the marsh of mists. The air was thick and misty, and the ground felt soggy. He could hear strange, gurgling sounds and the croaking of frogs. In the middle of the marsh stood a shimmering patch of water. A large turtle with an ancient, cracked shell sat on a rock in the center. This must be the stone guardian. Halt! The turtle's voice rumbled, echoing across the still water. To claim the sunken stone, you must answer my riddle. What has a mouth but never eats, and a bed but never sleeps? Squeaky thought and thought. He looked around the marsh. He looked at the water. He looked at the plants. A mouth, but never eats. A bed, but never sleeps. His eyes fell on the flowing water of the stream that fed the marsh. It had a mouth where it flowed into the marsh, and it flowed over a bed of pebbles and mud. He knew the answer. A river. Squeaky squeaked excitedly. The turtle's wise old eyes twinkled. Correct, he said, and with a slow, deliberate movement, he lifted his foot, revealing a small, perfectly smooth, gray stone underneath. It didn't sparkle. It wasn't glowing. It was just a simple stone. Squeaky felt a moment of disappointment, but he picked it up carefully and placed it in his pouch. "Thank you," he said. Squeaky raced back through the woods, retracing his steps. The log bridge didn't seem so wobbly, and the briars didn't seem so tangled. He was filled with a warm feeling of triumph. When he returned to the glow-nut tree, all the animals gathered around. Old Willow leaned down and looked at the simple gray stone. Squeaky held it out, a little embarrassed. It doesn't glow," he said. Old Willow smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. It was the journey. The courage to face your fears, to cross the river. The courage to face your fears, to cross the river. To navigate the briars, and to help a grumpy badger. It was your true heart that brought the magic back. Your courage is the light that will make the tree glow. And as Squeaky stood there, with the simple stone in his paw, the glow-nut tree began to shimmer. A tiny, faint light appeared on the tip of one nut, then another and another. Soon, the entire tree was filled with brilliant, sparkling, glowing nuts, brighter and more beautiful than ever before. Squeaky's heart swelled with happiness, and his friends cheered for their little hero. That winter, the festival was the best one ever. The path was lit, not just by the magical nuts, but by the story of a small squirrel named Squeaky, who taught everyone in Whispering Woods that the truest magic is found not in a special object, but in the courage that lies within our own hearts. If you enjoyed Squeaky's adventure, you can find more stories about the animals of Whispering Woods by subscribing to the channel. You can also press the like button to let us know you want to hear more tales like this one.